Okay, what is up, my Sigma Riz Lord? I had a little bit of my coffee frappe, which was lovely. Well, sorry for all that noise there, baby girl. Um, yeah, maybe I'll keep sipping my coffee while I do this next chapter for us. We are up to, wait, I'm just moving my setup out a little bit. We are up to chapter 4. We're actually 54 pages in. That seems crazy to me. That's like, we hustling. It was like 400 something pages. So, we on the trot. Okay, I think it's time I took a long gosh darn look at these screens. How am I in another solar system? That doesn't even make sense. What star is that, anyways? Oh my god, I'm so gonna die. I hyperventilate for a while. I remember what I tell my students: if you're upset, take a deep breath, let it out, and count to 10. It dramatically reduces the number of tantrums in my classroom. Take a breath. 1, 2. This isn't working. I'm gonna die. I hold my head in my hands. Oh my god, where the heck am I? I scour the monitors for anything I can make sense of. There's no lack of information, there's too much. Each screen has a handy label on the top: life support, airlock status, engines, robotics, astrophage, generators, centrifuge. Wait a minute. Astrophage? I checked the astrophage panel closely. Remaining to, oh wait, 20,906 kg. Consumption rate 6.045 G per S. Far more interesting than those numbers is the diagram below them. It shows what I assume is the Hail Mary, my first real overview of what the ship looks like. The top of the ship is a cylinder with a nose cone at the front. That's a rocket shape if I ever saw one, judging by the tapered conical walls of the control room. This must be the very front of the ship. Beneath me is the lab. On the diagram, there's a room labelled lab. Below that is a room I woke up in. The one with my dead friends. I sniffle and wipe away a tear. No time for that now. I put it out of my head and keep looking at the diagram. The room is labelled dormitory. Okay, so this whole diagram lines up with my experiences, and it's nice to know the official names of things. Underneath the dormitory is a much shorter room, maybe about 1 meter high, named storage. Ah, there must be a panel in the floor I missed. I make a mental note to check that out later. But there's more, a lot more. Under the storage room, there's an area labelled cable fairing. No idea what that is or why it exists. Beneath that, the ship fans out, and there appear to be 3 cylinders with the same width as my little area. They're all side by side. My guess is they assembled this ship in space, and the largest diameter they could launch it was about 4 meters. The trio of cylinders, I'd estimate, they're 75% the ship's total volume. Wait, sorry, babe. The trio of cylinders, I'd estimate they're 75% of the ship's total volume, are labelled fuel. The fuel area is broken up into 9 sub-cylinders. I tap one of them out of curiosity, and it brings up a screen for that one fuel bay. It says astrophage, 0.000 kg. It also has a button labelled jettison. Well, I'm not sure why I'm here or what these things are, but I definitely don't want to hit any button labelled jettison. Probably not as dramatic as it seems. These are fuel tanks. If the fuel has been spent, the ship can ditch the tank to reduce its mass and make the remaining fuel last longer. It's the same reason rockets lifting off from Earth have multiple stages. Interesting that the ship didn't automatically eject them as they became empty. I dismissed the window and returned to the main ship map. Under each of those large fuel zones is a trapezoidal area labelled spin drive. I've never heard that term before, but since it's in the back of the ship and has the word drive in its name, I assume that's the propulsion system. Spin drive. Spin drive. I close my eyes to think about it. Nothing happens. I can't call up memories at all. I'm not quite there yet. I peer at the diagram more closely. Why is there 20,000 kilograms of astrophage on this ship? I've got a strong suspicion it's the fuel. And why not? The astrophage can propel itself with light and has absurd energy storing capabilities. It's had God knows how many billion years of evolution to get good at it. Just like a horse is more efficient than a truck, astrophage is more energy efficient than a spaceship. Okay, that explains why there's a buttload of astrophage on the ship. It's fuel. But why put a diagram of the ship on the screen? That's like putting a blueprint of a car on its gas gauge. Interestingly, the diagram doesn't really care about the rooms. It doesn't even show what's inside them. Just a label for each one of them. However, the diagram is very focused on the hull and the rear part of the ship. I see red pipes leading from the fuel areas to the spin drives, probably how the fuel gets to the engines, but I also see the pipes along the hull of the ship. They cut across the cable fairing area. So the astrophage fuel is mostly in the fuel tank, but also kept in a shell all around the hull. Why do that? Oh, and there are temperature readings all over the place. I guess temperature is important because the readings are every few meters along the hull, and every single one of them reads 96.415 degrees Celsius. Hey, I know that temperature. I know that exact temperature. What do I know it from? Come on, brain. Come on. 96.415 degrees Celsius, read the display. Huh? I said. What is that? Strat said immediately. It was my second day in the lab. Strat insisted I be the only person to look at astrophage, at least for the time being. She dropped her tablet on the table and came into the observation room window. Something new? Kind of. The ambient temperature of an astrophage is 96.415 degrees Celsius. That's pretty hot, isn't it? Yeah, almost boiling point of water, I said. For anything living on Earth, it would be deadly. But for things comfortable living near the sun, who knows? So what's significant about it? I can't get them hotter or colder. I pointed to the experiment I'd set up on the fume hood. So I put some astrophage in ice cold water for an hour. When I pulled them out, they were 96.415 degrees Celsius. And I put some in a lab furnace at 1000 degrees. Again, after I pulled them out, they were 96.415 degrees. Scrap paced near the window. Maybe they have extremely good insulation? I thought of that, so I did another experiment. I took an extremely small droplet of water and put a few astrophage in it. After a few hours, the whole droplet was 96.415 degrees. The astrophage heated up the water, so it means heat energy can move out of it. What conclusion can you draw? She asked. I snapped. I tried to scratch my head, but the vinyl stick got in the way. Well, hang on. Well, we know they have a huge amount of energy stored inside. I'm guessing they use it to maintain body temperature, same way you and I do. A warm-blooded microorganism, she said. I shrugged. Looks that way. Hey, how much longer am I going to be the only person working on this? Until you stop discovering new stuff. One guy alone in a lab? This is not how science works, I said. There should be hundreds of people all over the world working on this. You're not alone in that thought, she said. I've had 3 different heads of state call me today. Then let other scientists in on it. No. Why not? She looked away for a moment, then back to the window, then at me. Astrophage is an alien microbe. What if it can infect humans? What if it's deadly? What if hazmat suits and neoprene gloves aren't enough protection? I gasped. Wait a minute, am I a guinea pig? I'm a guinea pig! No, it's not like that, she said. I stared at her. She stared at me. I stared at her. Okay, it's exactly like that, she said. Dang it, I said. That's just not cool. Don't be dramatic, she said. I'm just playing it safe. Imagine what would happen if I sent astrophage to the most brilliant minds on the planet and it killed them all. In an instant, we'd lose the very people we need the most right now. I can't risk that. I scowled. This is some cheesy movie stuff. Pathogens evolve slowly over time to attack specific hosts. Astrophage has never been on Earth before. There's no way it can just infect humans. Besides, it's been a couple of days and I'm not dead. Send it out to other real scientists. You are a real scientist, and you're making progress as fast as anyone else would. There's no point in me risking other lives while you're getting it done on your own. Are you kidding? I said. With a couple hundred minds working on this, we'd make a lot more progress on. Also, the most deadly diseases have a minimum of at least 3 days incubation time. Ah, there it is. She walked back to her table and picked up a tablet. The rest of the world will have their turn in time, but for now, it's just you. At least tell me what the hell those things are made of. Then we'll talk about giving it to other scientists. She resumed reading on her tablet. The conversation was over. She ended it by laying down what my students would call a sick burn. Despite my best efforts, I still had no idea what the heck astrophage was made of. They were opaque to every wavelength of light I think met. Visible, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, microwaves. I even put a few astrophage in a radiation containment vessel and exposed it to gamma rays emitted by cesium-137. This lab has everything. I call it the Bruce Banner test. Felt good about that name. Anyways, even gamma couldn't penetrate the little bastards, which is like shooting a 50 caliber round at a sheet of paper and having it bounce off. This doesn't make any sense. I sulked back to the microscope. Little dots hung out to the side where they'd been for hours. This was my control set, the ones I hadn't battered with various light sources. Maybe I'm overthinking this, I muttered. I poked around the lab supplies until I found what I needed. Nano syringes. They were rare and expensive, but the lab had them. Basically, they were teeny tiny needles, small enough and sharp enough to be used for poking microorganisms. You could put mitochondria out of a living cell with one of those, or you could pull the mitochondria out of a living cell with one of those babies. Back to the microscope. Okay, you little reprobates. Okay, you little reprobates, so you're radiation proof. I'll grant you that. But how about I stab you in the face? Normally a nano syringe would be controlled by finely tuned equipment, but I just want some stabby time and I didn't care about the tool's integrity. I grabbed the collect, where it would normally mount on the control machinery, and brought the needle into view of the microscope. They're called nano syringes, but they're actually about 50 nanometers wide. Still, I think the needle is tiny compared to the hulking 10 micron astrophage, only about 1 to 2,000th the width. I poked an astrophage with the needle, and what happened next was nothing I could have expected. First off, the needle penetrated. No doubt on that front. For all its resistance to light and heat, apparently, the astrophage was no better at dealing with sharp things than any other cell. The instant I poked a hole in it, the whole cell became translucent. No longer a featureless black dot, but a cell with organelles and everything else a microbiologist wants to see. Just like that. It was like flicking a switch. And then it died. The ruptured cell wall simply gave up the ghost and completely unraveled. The astrophage went from being a cohesive, roundish object to a slowly widening puddle with no outer boundary. I grabbed a normal needle from a nearby shelf and sucked up the goop. Yes, I said, I killed one! Good for you, Strat said without looking up from a tablet. First human to kill an alien, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. Okay, I know you're trying to be funny, but Predator died by deliberately setting off a bomb. The first human to kill a predator was actually Michael Harrigan, played by Danny Glover in Predator 2. Wait, okay, I was confused because Danny Glover and Donald Glover are different people, right? Yeah, I think that's right. You're gonna know. You're gonna have to tell me. Surely it's right because Donald Glover, he's like my baby girl. He's the one who is Childish Gambino, and Danny Glover's a different person. But you're gonna have to confirm that for me. Okay. Anyways, in Predator 2, she stared at me through the window for a moment, then shook her head and rolled her eyes. Point is, I can finally find out what the astrophage is made of. Really? She set the tablet down. Killing it did the trick? I think so. It's not black anymore. Light is getting through. Whatever weird effect was blocking it out isn't anymore. How'd you do it? What killed it? I penetrated the outer membrane with the nano syringe. You poked it with a stick? No! I said. Well, yes, but it was a scientific poke with a very scientific stick. It took you 2 days to think of poking it with a stick. You be quiet. I took the needle to the spectroscope and ejected the astrophage goop onto the platform. Then I sealed the chamber and fired up the analysis. I bounced from one foot to the other like a little kid while I waited for the results. I started craning her neck to watch me. So what's this you're doing now? It's the atomic emission spectroscope, I said. I told you about this earlier. It sends X-rays to sample to excite the atoms and watches the wavelengths that come back. It didn't work at all. It didn't work at all when I tried it on the live astrophage. But now the magic light stops. Properties are gone. I think it should be normal. The machine beeped. Alright, Here we go. Time to find out what chemicals are in the life form that doesn't use water. I read the LCD screen. It showed all peaks and the elements are represented. I stared at the screen silently. Well, Strat said. Well, there's carbon and nitrogen, but the vast majority of the sample is hydrogen and oxygen. I sighed and plopped down in the chair next to the machine. The ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is 2 to 1. She asked. What does that mean? It's water. The astrophage is mostly water. My mouth fell open. How? How can something that exists on the surface of the sun have water? I shrugged. Probably because it maintains an internal temperature at 96.415 degrees Celsius no matter what's going on outside. What does this mean? She asks. I put my head in my hands. It means every scientific paper I ever wrote is wrong. Well, that's a kick in the pants. But I wasn't happy in that lab anyway. And they must have brought in smarter people than me because here I am, at another star in a ship powered by astrophage. So why am I the one out here? All I did was prove that my lifelong belief was wrong. I guess I'll remember that part later. From now, I want to know what? Yeah, I'm trying that again. A little coffee frappe first. Delicious. So, why am I the one out here? All I did was prove that my lifelong belief was wrong. I guess I'll remember that part later. For now, I want to know what star that is, and why we built a ship to bring people here. All important things, to be sure. But right now, there's a whole area of the ship I haven't explored yet. Storage. Maybe I can find something other than a makeshift toga to wear. I climbed down the ladder to the lab, and further downward towards the dormitory. My friends are still there. Still dead. I try not to look at them. I scan the floor for any hint of an access panel. Nothing. So I get down on my hands and knees and crawl around. Finally, I spot it. A very thin seam marking the square directly under my male crewmate's bunk. I can't even wedge my fingernails into the seam, it's so thin. There were all manner of tools in the lab. I'm sure there's a flathead screwdriver I could use to pry this open, or... Hey computer, open access panel. Specify aperture to open. I point to the panel. This thing. Open it. Specify aperture to open. Open aperture to supply room. I'm sealing supply room, says the computer. There's a click and the panel rises a couple of inches. A rubber gasket around the seam gets torn apart in the process. I couldn't see it when the panel was closed. Things were that tight. I'm glad I didn't try to pry it open. It would have been a pain in the butt. I put the remnants of the seal off the panel and the panel becomes loose in the opening. I jiggle it a bit before figuring out I have to rotate it. Once I rotate it 90 degrees, it detaches and I set it aside. I poke my head into the room below and see a bunch of soft-sided white cubes. I guess that makes sense. Packing stuff in soft containers lets you cram more things into the room. Just as the diagram in the control room said, the storage area is about a meter high and completely full of those soft containers. I would have to remove a bunch just to get in there, if I wanted to get in there. I guess I'll have to eventually. It looks a bit claustrophobic, to be honest, like a crawl space under a house. I grab the nearest package and pull it up to the opening. The packages are held together by Velcro straps. I pull them apart, and the container unfolds like Chinese takeout box. Inside there are a bunch of uniforms. Jackpot! Though it's not really a coincidence, whoever packed this probably did it with careful planning and knew the crew would want uniforms as soon as they woke up. So they're in the first bag. There are at least a dozen uniforms in the package. They're each in a vacuum-sealed plastic bag. I open one at random. It's light blue, a one-piece jumpsuit. Astronaut clothes. The fabric is thin, but feels comfortable. On the left shoulder is the Hail Mary mission patch. Same design as I saw in the control room. Beneath that is the Chinese flag. The right shoulder has a white patch with a blue chevron triangle surrounded by the wreath design and letters CNSA. I recognize it immediately. Nerd that I am. It's the Chinese National Space Agency logo. There's a name tag over the left breast pocket. It reads, it's a Chinese character. The same character as I saw in the Hail Mary mission crest is pronounced Yao. How do I know? Of course I know. Commander Yao. He was our leader. I can see his face now. Young and striking, eyes full of determination. He understood the severity of the mission and the weight on his shoulders. He was ready for the task, and he was stern but reasonable. And you just knew, he would give up his life in a second for the mission or his crew. I put on another uniform, much smaller than Commander's. Sorry, it's I pull out, not I pull on. Sorry. The mission patch under is the same, but there's a Russian flag beneath it, and the tiny right shoulder has a tilted chevron surrounded by a ring, with a symbol of Roscosmos, Russian Space Agency. The name patch reads something Russian, and another name from the crest. It was Ilyankina's uniform. Olesia Ilyakina. Okay. I'm gonna have to look in and just decide on how I'm gonna pronounce this, because if it comes up again I don't wanna be fumbling. Olesia? Yeah, that's how I'm pronouncing the first name. Olesia Ilakina. Okay, Olesia Ilakina. That's what we're saying. She was hilarious. She could have you laughing with your butt. She could have you laughing your butt off within 30 seconds of meeting. Laughing with your butt, bro. Within 30 seconds of meeting, yo. She's one of those infectious and jovial personalities. As serious as Yao was, Ilakina was casual. They butted heads about it from time to time, but even Yao couldn't resist her charm. I remember when he finally broke down and laughed at one of her jokes. You can't be 100% serious forever. I stand up and look at their bodies. No longer a stern commander, no longer a cheerful friend. Just two empty husks that once held souls, but now barely look human. They deserve more than this. They deserve a burial. The container holds multiple outfits for each crew member. I eventually find the ones for me. They're exactly as I assumed they would be. Hail Mary mission patch with the US flag underneath, a NASA logo on the right shoulder, and the name tag that says Grace. I put on my jumpsuit. After more digging in the storage area, I find footwear. They're not shoes, really, just thick socks with rubber soles. And booties with some grip. I guess that's all we need for the mission. I put them on as well. Then I go about the grim task of dressing my departed comrades. Their jumpsuits don't remotely look like the right size on their thin, desiccated bodies. I even put the booties on. Why not? This is our uniform, and every traveller deserves to be buried in uniform. I start with Ilakina. She weighs almost nothing. I carry her over the shoulder as I climb the ladder on the way to the control room. Once there, I set her on the floor and open the airlock. The spacesuit inside is bulky and in the way. I move it piece by piece into the control room and set it on the pilot's chair. Then I put Olesia into the airlock. The airlock controls are self-explanatory. The air pressure inside the airlock and even the outer door are controllable. Wait, I hear a car. I hope it's not you. Getting dropped off, because I think you're getting dropped off this afternoon, and it's in the afternoon. Okay, I don't think that's you. Hopefully, because I don't want you to catch me. This would be so walkies. Okay, by the panel in the control room, there's even a jettison button. I close the door and activate the jettison process. It starts with a buzzing alarm, blinking lights inside the airlock, and a verbal countdown. There are 3 different blinking abort switches inside the airlock. Anyone who finds themselves in there during a jettison can easily cancel it. Once the countdown finishes, the airlock decompresses to 10% of the atmosphere, according to the readouts. Then it releases the outer door. With a whoosh, Alessia is gone. And, with the consistently accelerating ship, the body simply falls away. Olesia Ilankina, I say. I don't remember her religion if she had one. I don't know what she would have wanted, but I at least will remember her name. I commend your body to the stars. Seems appropriate. Maybe corny, but it makes me feel better. Next, I carry Commander Yao to the airlock. I set him inside, seal it, and jettison his remains the same way. Yao Li Jai, I say. I don't know how I remembered his given name. It just came to me in that moment. I commend your body to the stars. Okay, so you've just messaged me something. I'm just gonna check that. So it's not I'll be at your house in 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna see if I can pause this and then resume it. Okay, love you. Okay, so I can resume it. You've just messaged to say that you're on your way home. The Kindle reckons I've got about 16 minutes left in this chapter, so I don't know how that's gonna line up, but I'm gonna try to read really, really fast and get this done before you get here, because I don't want to leave it on another half chapter. Okay, ready? The airlock cycles and I'm not alone. I was alone all along. And I am alone. No, I'm not alone. I was alone all along, but I am truly alone. The sole living human within several light years at least. What do I know now? Welcome back, Mr. Grace, said Teresa. The kids all sat at their desk, primed for science class. Thanks, Teresa, I said. Michael piped in. The substitute teacher was boring. Well, I'm not, I said. I picked up 4 plastic bins in the corner. I'm so sleepy. Today we're gonna look at rocks. Okay, maybe that is a little boring. A chuckle from the kids. You're gonna divide into 4 teams with each team will get a bin. You have to separate the rocks into igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. First team to finish and get every rock correctly categorized gets beanbags. Can we pick our own teams? Trang asked excitedly. No, because that just leads to a bunch of drama. Because children are animals. Horrible, horrible animals. Everyone laughed. Teams will be alphabetical. So the first team is... Abby raised her hand. Mr. Grace, can I ask a quick question? Sure. What's happening to the sun? The whole class suddenly grew much more attentive. My dad said it's not a big deal, Michael says. My dad said the government is a conspiracy, said Tamora. Okay, I set the bins down and sat at the edge of my desk. So basically, you know how there's algae in the ocean, right? Well, there's sort of a space algae growing on the sun. Astrophage? Said Harrison. I almost slipped off my desk. What? Where did you hear that word? That's what they're calling it now, said Harrison. The president called it that in the speech last night. I've been so isolated in the lab, I didn't even know the president had given a speech. Holy cow, I invented that word the day before. And in that time it got from her to the president to the media. Wow. Okay, yes, astrophage. That's growing on the sun. Or near it. People aren't sure. So what's the problem, Michael asked. Algae in the ocean doesn't hurt us, so why would algae from the sun? I pointed him. This is a good question. Thing is, astrophage is starting to absorb a lot of the sun's energy. Well, not a lot. It's a tiny percentage, but that means Earth's getting a tiny little bit less sunlight. And that can cause real problems. So it'll be a little colder, like a degree or 2. What's the big deal? You guys know about climate change, right? How CO2 emissions caused a lot of problems in the environment. My dad said it's not real, said Tamora. Well, it is, I said. Anyway, all the environmental problems we have from climate change, they happen because of the world's average temperature just went up 1.5 degrees. That's it. Just 1.5 degrees. How much will this affect the astrophage stuff? How much will this astrophage stuff change Earth's temperature? Asked Luther. I stood and paced slowly in front of the class. We don't know. But if it breathes like algae at about the same speed, climatologists are saying Earth's temperature could drop 10 to 15 degrees. What'll happen? Luther asked. It'll be bad. Very bad. Lots of animals, entire species, will die because their habitats are too cold. The ocean water will cool down too, and it might cause an entire food chain to collapse. So everything that could survive in the lower temperature will starve to death because the things they eat will die off. The kids stared at me, awestruck. Why had their parents not explained this to them? Probably because they didn't understand it themselves. Besides, if I had a nickel for every time I wanted to smack a kid's parents for not teaching them the most basic things, well, I'd have enough nickels to put in a sock and smack those parents with. That is crazy, babe. That's my favorite line so far. If I'd had it, wait, I'm gonna read it again because it's my favorite. Besides, if I had a nickel for every time I wanted to smack a kid's parents for not teaching them the most basic things, well, I'd have enough nickels to put them in a sock and smack those parents with it. Everyone's gonna die too? Abby asked, horrified. Abby rode horses competitively and spent most of her time in her grandfather's dairy farm. Human suffering is often an abstract concept to kids, but animal suffering is something they understand entirely. Yes, I'm sorry, but a lot of livestock will die, and worse than that, on land, crops will fail, the food we eat will become scarce, and what happens to social order? And when that happens, the social order often breaks down, and I stopped myself there. These were kids. Why am I going this far? How? Abby began. I'd never seen her at a loss for words. How long before this happens? Climatologists think it'll happen within the next 30 years, I said. Just like that, all the kids relaxed. 30 years? Trang asked. That's forever. It's not that long, I said. But to a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds, 30 years may as well be a million. Can I be on Tracy's team for the rock sorting assignment? Said Michael. 30 years. Look at their little faces. In 30 years, they'd all be in their early 40s. They would bear the brunt of it, and it wouldn't be easy. These kids were going to grow up in an idyllic world to be thrown into an apocalyptic nightmare. They were in the generation that would experience the sixth extinction event. I felt a cramp in the pit of my stomach. looking out of the room full of children, happy children, and there was a good chance some of them would literally die of starvation. I stammered. I have to do a thing. Forget the rock assignment. What? Asked Luther. Do study hall. This is a study hall for the rest of the hour. Just do homework from other classes. Stay in your seat and work quietly until the bell rings. I left the room without another word. I almost collapsed in the hall from shakes. I went to a nearby drinking fountain and splashed water on my face. Then I took a deep breath, got some self-control back, and jogged into the parking lot. I drove fast, way too fast. I ran a red light. I cut people off. I never do any of that, but today was different. That day was. I don't even know. I screeched into the parking lot and left my car parked at an odd angle. 2 US Army soldiers were there at the door to the complex, just as they'd been on the previous 2 days while I'd been working there. I stormed past them. Should we have stopped them? I heard one of them ask the other. I didn't care what the response was. I stomped into the observation room. Strat was there, of course, reading at tablet. She looked up and caught a glimpse of the genuine surprise on her face. I caught a glimpse of the genuine surprise on her face. So it's Grace. What are you doing here? Past her, through the windows, I spotted 4 people in contaminant suits working in the lab. Who are they? I asked, pointing out the window. And what are they doing in my lab? Can't say I like your tone, she said. I don't care. But it's not your lab. It's my lab. Those technicians are collecting samples of the astrophage. What are you going to do with it? She held a tablet under her arm. Your dream is coming true. I'm dividing up the astrophage and sending it into 30 different labs around the world. Everything from CERN to CIA bioweapons facility. The CIA has I began. Never mind. I want to do more work on this. She shook her head. It's on your part. We thought it was anti-Hydra's life. Turns out it wasn't. You proved that. And since no alien exploded out of your chest, we consider the guinea pig phase over too. So you're done. No, I'm not done. There's a lot more to learn. Of course there is. That's why I have 30 labs eagerly waiting to start on it. I stepped forward. Leave some astrophage here. Let me work on it some more. She stepped forward as well. No, why not? According to your notes, there are 174 living astrophage cells in the sample, and you killed one yesterday, so down to 173. She pointed to her tablet. Each of these labs, huge, national labs, will get 5 or 6 cells each. That's it. We're down to that level of scarcity. Those cells are 173 most important things on Earth right now. Analysis of them will determine if humanity survives. She paused and spoke more softly. I get it. You spent your whole life trying to prove that life doesn't require water. Then unbelievably, you get some actual extraterrestrial life, and it turns out do need water. That's rough. Shake it off and get back to your life. I've got it from here. I'm still a microbiologist who spent his career working up theoretical models for alien life. I'm a useful resource with skill sets almost no one else has. Dr. Grace, I don't have the luxury of leaving samples here to just stroke your bruised ego. Ego? This isn't my ego. It's about my children. You don't have children. Yes, I do. Dozens of them. And they come to my class every day. And they're going to end up in some Mad Max nightmare world if we don't solve this problem. Yeah, I was wrong about the water. I don't care about it. I care about those kids. So give me some gosh damn astrophage. She stepped back and pursed her lips. She looked to the side, thinking it over. Then she turned back to me. 3. You have 3 astrophage. I unclenched my muscles. Okay. I breathed a little. I didn't realize how tense I'd been. Okay. 3. I can work with that. She tapped on her tablet. I'll keep this lab open. It's all yours. Come back in a few hours when my guys are gone. I was already halfway into the containment suit. I'm getting back to work now. Tell your guys to stay out of the way. She glared at me, but I didn't say anything further. I have to do it for my kids. I mean, they're not my kids, but they are my kids. I look at the screens arrayed before me. I need to think about this. My memory is spotty. Seems reliable enough, but incomplete. Instead of waiting for an epiphany where I remember everything, what can I work out right now? Esther's in trouble. The sun is infected with astrophage. I'm in a spaceship in another solar system. The ship wasn't easy to build and had an international crew. We're talking about an interstellar mission, something that should be impossible without technology. Okay, so humanity put a lot of time and effort into this mission, and astrophage was the missing link that enabled it. There's only one explanation. There's a solution to the astrophage problem here, or a potential solution, something promising enough to dedicate a huge amount of resources to it. I scanned the screens for more info. Mostly, they seem to be kinds of things you expect on a spaceship. Life support, navigation, that sort of thing. On a screen labelled as Beatles. The next screen over says, wait, Beatles? I don't know if it has anything to do with anything, but I need to find out if there's a bunch of Beatles on the ship. That's the sort of thing a guy needs to know. The screen is broken into 4 quadrants. Each one is showing nearly the same thing. A little schematic, and a bunch of text information. Schematics show a long show a bulbous oblong shape with a pointed head and a trapezoid on the back. If you tilt your head just right and squint, I suppose it kind of looks like a beetle. Each beetle also has a name up top. John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Yeah, I get it. I'm not laughing, but I get it. I arbitrarily pick one beetle, John, and give it a good look. John is no insect. I'm pretty sure he's a spaceship. The trapezoid in the rear is labeled spin drive, and the entire bulbous part is labeled fuel. The little head has a computer label and a radio label. I look a little closer. The fuel info box says astrophage, 120 kilos, temperature 96.415 degrees Celsius. The computer box says last memory check 3 days ago, 5 TB functioning correctly, and the radio info says status 100%. It's an unmanned probe. I'm so worried about to get home. I'm meant to have 3 minutes left. I just keep hearing cars, and I get really worried. It's an unmanned probe. Something small, I guess. The entire mass of the fuel is 120 kilograms. That's not a lot, but a little astrophage goes a long way, and there aren't any scientific instruments labeled. What's the point of an unmanned ship with nothing on board? Wait, what if the 5 terabytes of storage is the point of the ship? The realization dawns on me. Oh shucks, I say. I'm out in space. I'm in another star system. I don't know how much astrophage it took to get out here, but it was probably a lot. Sending a ship to another star probably took an absurd amount of fuel. Sending that ship back to another star and bringing it back would take 10 times as much fuel. I checked the astrophage panel and refresh my memory. Remaining 20,862 kilograms. Consumption rate 6.043 G/S. G over S. Well, per second, grams per second, whatever. The consumption rate was at 6.05 grams per second before. Oh, so it's gone down a little bit. The amount of fuel went down too. Basically, as the fuel gets consumed, the total mass of the ship goes down, so it needs less fuel per second to maintain constant acceleration. Okay, that all makes sense. I have no idea what the Hail Mary's mass is, but to be able to shove it along at 1.5 G's of acceleration on a few grams of fuel per second, astrophage is amazing stuff. Anyways, I don't know exactly how the consumption rate will change over time. I mean, I could work it out, but it's complicated. So for now, I've got approximated it to 6 grams per second. How long will that fuel last? It's nice to have a jumpsuit on. It's got pockets and all sorts of knickknacks. I still haven't found a calculator, so I do the math with pen and paper. Grand total, I run out of fuel in 40 days. I don't know what star that is, but it's not the sun. And there's no way to get from any other star on Earth with just 40 days of accelerating at 1.5 Gs. Probably took years to get here from Earth. Which might be why I was in a coma. Interesting. Anyways, all this can mean one thing. The Hail Mary isn't going home. It's a one-way ticket. And I'm pretty sure those beetles are how I'm supposed to send information back to Earth. There's no way I have radio transmitter powerful enough. There's no way I have a radio transmitter powerful enough to broadcast several light years. I don't know if it would be possible to build, so instead I have these little beetle ships. There's 5 terabytes of information each. They'll fly back to Earth and broadcast their data. There's 4 of them for redundancy. I'm probably supposed to put copies of my findings in each one and send them all home. If at least one survives the journey to Earth, I'm saved. Oh shit, you've messaged again. Wait, let me check it. Oh my god, you're literally pulling up, but I've got like 5 seconds left of this. They'll fly back to Earth and broadcast the data, 4 of them, blah, blah, blah. I'm on a suicide mission. John, Paul, and Ringo are about to get home, and my long winding road ends here. I must have known about all this folly when I volunteered, but to my unusual riddled brain, this is new information. I'm gonna die out here, I'm gonna die alone. Okay, you've literally just pulled up. I love you, babe.